Hello music creators, Mike here, and in this video we are going to take a look at the Orchestra Complete 2, which is a complete bundle and powerhouse of an orchestral library, including a really advanced and powerful engine for creating rhythms, layers, and all kinds of stuff to increase your workflow as a composer. So let's dive in now, but before we do, I just have this quick message for you. If you want to master rhythm and percussion, chords and harmony, melody and themes, or perhaps sound design for your music, check out my special discounts in the video description below. If we take a look here at the interface, Score, the Orchestra Complete 2, and I've loaded up one of the rhythm presets with a bunch of instruments here, and I just recorded a chord progression, so I will start showing you the best aspect of this library, or this product in my opinion, straight ahead. Now let's play. Look up here now, it says recording. So if I just stop now and I take this, drag and drop MIDI into my DAW and watch what happens. It separates all these different rhythms and everything, the MIDI from all these 5 parts into 5 MIDI tracks. Of course, they will just be defaulting to a piano in most DAWs. But if I mute this, if you listen now, and more importantly, take a look in here. So you get the rhythm, but also the velocity, which is increasing here. So you get this crescendo, which you heard in the playback. So if I go over here, it has increased in volume. So now that you have those tracks, you can drag and drop them to a brass section, for example, woodwinds, or whatever you want to use them for. So in case you have very different, let's move this up again here, arpeggiators, so this is 1, arpeggiator 1, 2, and 3, and so on, you will get different MIDI. And it's just based on whatever notes or chords or whatever you have here in your sequencer. So on playback, it starts recording. And when you stop, after you play the part, you can drag and drop the MIDI. So that is an amazing feature in my opinion. Now let's dive in and check out what we have here in the Orchestra Complete. So it's divided into the instrument folders and multis. So you have the strings. If I open that up, you have the, for example, violins 1. Let's just, so that's a folder, yeah. So you can load up the core articulations or only legato in case you want individual. Right? But you can also load up strings, let's see, violins, core articulations, which gives you key switches. So we have staccato here. Let's do pizzicato. Whoops. So you need to learn, of course, these key switches. Where are we? Here. Right, so of course you have all of these different articulations per instrument. You also have high ensemble Morincourt, which I believe was from the Strings of Winter expansion. So if you have, for example, the low ensemble here, let's do the all articulations. Yeah, it is the Strings of Winter, which is really hauntingly. Let's see if we can find the. So this is the low section. And what I loved about the Strings of Winter package in the orchestra, the complete orchestra, is this fragile, delicate aspect of the sound. You can hear it even more if you have the high ensemble. Let's do sustains. Or sustain vibrato, in fact. Let's do harmony. So that is one color you can get. And you can go into every category of the orchestra here: strings, brass, woodwinds. I mean, you have it, French horns, trumpets. So it's basically a whole package for the orchestra. Woodwinds, percussion, keys and harp, even choir. I don't know if that's new, in fact, but you have the females, the males, and the elven choir here. String effects, falls, crescendi, hits, and so on. But let's go into the more fun aspect, which is to load up the Orchestra Complete engine. And here I will show you now. If you take a look at the interface, in fact, let's just move it over here now, and we can delete. No, let's not delete it. So you have this, which I played. I mean, this aspect here. Well, if you load up the main engine here, you can click here and go into, if you want, orchestral colors, rhythms, or animated orchestra. So colors is basically playing yourself with your MIDI keyboard and individual patches or layers. Rhythms is what I showed you in the beginning of this video. And animated orchestra is more movement, crescendos and falls and stuff like that. And I mean, if you have the orchestral rhythms, for example, then of course you can choose if you want 4/4 time signature or meter here, if you want 8 or 16th note or triplets. You can also choose between different characters. So let's go for orchestral rhythm. So this is just filtering down dramatic 16ths. And then we use this patch here, war rhythm 1601. And now I can play the chord progression. I don't know if where I am in the key. If I should move this like down. It depends, of course. Of course, on the range of the instruments. I didn't really particularly like that. Let's do something else. War rhythm 16th. So we have this low and menacing type of rhythm. Well, you just go with whatever you want. Orchestral rhythm. Let's go back to all here and do piano. Strings winter 16th. This one. Oh yeah. I mean, this is just a simple chord progression, as you can see here. But it plays these rhythms mixed in the engine. So what is the engine? Well, the engine is based on 3 different arpeggiators, individual, and 2 envelopes that you can assign to any of the up to 5 parts that you can play. So this is actually strings, violin 1, sul ponticello spiccato. Right? So that is the first, this one here. You can solo that. Which is played by the arpeggiator 1. So go from main. Here you load the instruments. So if you click here, you can go on a section, strings. Do you want which instrument, which type of articulation? I mean, and there's a lot to choose from. And this is for every part here, every layer. Then you go to the engine and you can assign an arpeggiator. If you don't, this would play, if let's say none here, this is going to play the chords. Of course, in spiccato, that's only 1 note, short note. So in this case, you might want to go for, let's say, sul ponticello sustain. So that is the first layer now. Or you can use envelope, which is where you can create envelope 1, these crescendos and decrescendos like this, right? Then set this to, let's say, 4 bars, and now you can play, let's see, turn on the envelope. Retrigger on. Okay, so that is now played with some movement on the first layer. Then the second layer is now more in Kur high staccato, this one. And this is mixed with or played by the arpeggiator 1. So going to the engine, arpeggiator 1 is on, and this is the rhythm. And of course, here you can change the rhythm if you want to. This is, you can see, you can see where the accents are. I mean, you can create something completely different. Let's make some gaps. Okay, so we have this like so, all chords, rhythm on, 16th to the seconds. Let's see. Or 8s. Let's do it like that. And you can basically go as deep as you want to with the arpeggiator, but let's just go for a simple 16th or something like this. And then mark the accents wherever you want them. Okay. And then, of course, you can see that it's actually changing depending on what I wrote in here, which is CC1, so modulation wheel, is actually changing the envelope. As you can see, the envelope is rising a bit here and down because I recorded it. So it is also routed by or controlled by my CC values. So you can go on and dive in as deep as you want to, or you can, of course, just go ahead and load up a complete mix, because that's essentially what you do here. You can, of course, save this if you want to, or favorize it. But you can go through all of these elements. So right now, these are only strings. Let's change this one just to woodwinds, oboe, staccato. Just try something here, like this. And it's an octave below, which it cannot play, so let's do an octave above, or 0. Okay, now that is oboe staccato. It's arpeggiator 3, so it's this one, and you can choose here if it's going to play all chords up, down, and this is the pattern. Note selection, lowest. Let's do off. So that is now a full chord instead of only the lowest. I mean, you can. Do you realize how deep you can go? So this layer is now playing this arpeggiator 3 with this rhythm I programmed, controlled by the CC dynamics, and let's say only the middle note of the chord. Do you realize how insane this is? That you can go this deep? Of course, there's also a mixer here, so you basically have the main page with all the layers, or the multi, which I call this, here, which you do up here, instrument slot, octave range, the engine slot, envelope 1, 2, or arpeggiator 1, 2, and 3, the engine, where you control all of these control aspects, and the mixer, where you can pan it, add or remove reverb, change the overall reverb, add a compressor, EQ, change the level. Let's try to add that an octave above instead. Whoops, it's this one here. Like so. So now that will play like so. And now we have this. I'm going to try to transpose it down or see if basses can take over here. So you can experiment with the voicing of your actual chords that you put into this engine. like so, and then you can stop, and then you can drag and drop. For example, let's do this again just for demonstration purposes. And let's see, here is actually the fourth instrument, right? Where do you think that came from? Well, it came from this oboe staccato, played an octave above, but forcing it to play, let's say, arpeggiator 3, the middle note of this chord progression. So that's why it's, this same note here for up to bar 4 here. So you can see here, here, if you just take a listen here, first 3 bars is the middle note of that chord, then it will change. But it follows the dynamics as well. So this is a great way to add different types of rhythms that all respect the chord progression and the rhythms you have either programmed or loaded up in the engine itself. So that is the workflow aspect of it all. It's super quick to work with. Now let's go back here and take a look at what we have. So we have colors, rhythms, and animated orchestra. So we just focused mainly on the rhythmic aspect of it, which I personally believe is the strongest feature of this entire bundle overall. But there's also animated orchestra. And let's just take the same chord progression and load up, let's say, point of no return, right? I have no idea what it is, but if I go back here, we can see that point of no return is violin 1, sul ponticello spiccato, controlled by arpeggiator 1, trumpet staccato, and so on, and all in all it sounds like this now. Let's see, where was I? Was that animated? Animated? I thought orchestral rhythms. Let's see. I was under the impression that animated should be more animation. This was rhythmic. I'm actually not sure at the moment. Perhaps if we go to mysterious instead here and take a look at, you want to see more envelopes than arpeggiator, because arpeggiator means it's rhythmic, and these two are now more moving. Okay, so there we have something different. Let's go with magical. Not really sure. I was hoping that you could purposely force it to go to just using envelopes, not arpeggiators. That's clear. Anyway, what you can see also here is library, the orchestra, strings of winter, and hordes of hell. So you can actually sort any of the presets on these different products. So let's just go with the horns of hell. This is the newest library. So focusing of course on more on the brass. Let's do battle rhythm in 8ths in 7/8 here. Let's try that, but an octave above and see. So it might be better to actually play on your MIDI keyboard to find the different aspects of the sound and then lay out the chord progression. Or in my case here, I just transpose to find the best voicing for it. And let's go out here again. Let's try something else. Let's try one of the brass. Full muted sustain. What do we have here? Okay, so this is no... Yeah, so this is... This is a good way to go to the next one, which is orchestral colors. So basically not using the envelope or the arpeggiators, but instead just playing. So if I just play my keyboard here, this is turning into orchestral layering engine instead. So you have here trumpet muted sustain, horns muted sustain, and trombones muted sustain. And now I use my mod wheel here to just control the dynamics. Okay, so there you can just go for orchestral colors. And as you can see, and if we focus on Horns of Hell here, we have all these different, let's do mixed evil marcato, which is probably going to sound good in the low end. Oh yeah. I mean, that is something incredible. You can quickly add, you can create mockups, or you can add accents, or, you know, beef up your production by using an entire multi like this. So you have non-pitch drums, timpani hit, trombone, muted marcato, tenor, horn marcato, and evil brass marcato. All of this layered and different octaves, and then super fun to try out. And I mean, you can load up a preset to begin with, but if you don't want to use, for example, let's say you don't want the timpani hit, let's do tubular bells instead. I want to find... Okay, so it is there. Didn't I change it? Tubular bells. Hit, like that. And I mean, here you can hear where the ranges are for the instruments. So even if you use the layering here, if one instrument doesn't cover the next instrument's range, you will hear a clear difference in coloring. But as you can hear, super powerful to just layering things up here. And that's just from Horns of Hell. You can, of course, include everything. Just go in and have fun. Let's do organ, tutti plus bass. Or let's say, you can go for instruments, so a woodwinds color here, let's say woodwinds high marcato. So here you get flute marcato, bow marcato, trumpet. Okay, so even though it says, so orchestra, okay, so woodwinds only. Can I get only woodwinds? Okay, so you start with woodwinds, it's just a filtering here. So let's do woodwinds high marcato. Let's see what we get here. Flute marcato, clarinet marcato, or bow marcato. And that's the engine, so to speak. So this is the Orchestra Complete 2 patch. As I explained in the beginning, you can also go into the individual instruments, or you can also opt for these multis. So these are already created multis with orchestral colors, rhythms, or animated orchestra. I prefer to use the engine, but you can go straight in here, but where you have all the presets instead. So animated, let's do momentum here, like so. And now you get it as a multi instead, like this. Oh, I see. I beg your pardon. It's actually two different. So we have arpeggiators here and lots of stuff here. This is probably going to be basically overkill. So let me try it. Okay, so I'm not sure when I'm going to use these super big types of multis, because it's basically an entire orchestra. I mean, you get 5 layers here and 5 layers here, and you can play, just playing a C major chord with C in the bass. And that is Winter Strings, Kingdom of Ice. Cool names, I have to say. Let's do War and Peace. Try that one. Just for the fun of it. I mean, I just play... Basically, I play chord progressions with some walking bass lines, and I get this. And then when you're ready, you can actually export the MIDI. You cannot export while you play, by the way, oops, on the MIDI keyboard. You have to have something in the sequencer, so it will only record when the sequencer is playing. So this chord progression here. So you have to make sure you connect the chords and so on, and then... Right? Then you can export. I wonder if I can export both of them. So I export this one now, those 5 tracks, and I export this one, and I have those 5 tracks. And one little thing that annoys me a bit is I would have liked, I don't know if it's possible with the DAW, but I would have liked these to have like at least some type of name, not just to MIDI export. For example, if it could be named the region here or the track, this one here, cello sul ponticento spiccato, then it would be easier to, drag it to an appropriate track in my project than now, where I have to just open and have a look, what was it playing, and so on. So let's remove those again, like so, and go back here. So that is the Orchestra Complete 2, 3 products in one, and basically the most complete collection of orchestral instruments, multis, engines, and creative potential that I have personally ever tried. So I will leave a link in the description so you can check it out for yourself. But I mean, I will definitely be using this, even if it's for only 2 aspects, which is 1, using the orchestral colors to basically paint sketches and mock-ups, or to beef up my productions, and 2, using the orchestral rhythms and then try out different chord progressions on different presets until I get inspired, and then drag and drop the MIDI into my projects and, arrange them to different instruments in my compositions. Now choose which video you are going to watch next, or you can check out the amazing bonuses in the video description.